Hey, good morning. And I just really want to share about our story. Let me tell you a little bit about me. My name's Dave Chametzky. I'm here in New York, USA, and I know how much stories and what we need to do with our stories become so impactful in our lives. How do I know that? I've lived it. Uh, right now, probably about 15 years ago, I was sitting in a conference, a women's conference, and I heard the first time Maya Angelou's poet that says, "Still I rise." Hmm, still I rise. Well, while I was hearing those words about being empowered, I was going through a divorce. I was going through feeling among the lowest times of my life at that time. Wow. But the story that the poem told me is not the story that I heard. Sometimes we'll hear something different. And when we're listening to ourselves the best way possible, that's when we start to know our story. The story was not only about me sitting in that conference full of women, hearing Madeleine Albright, Geraldine Ferraro, major women, is how I was feeling it, feeling broken as a person. But we're really not broken as a people. Once we learn our story and move our story straight. Now, I had to move through that story. I had to move through those ashes. As I'm hearing that story about Still I Rise, I was like, there's a bird. Still I rise. The phoenix. The phoenix kept coming to my head. It's not mentioned in the poem or at the conference. I heard it. I heard it in my heart because I knew the story I was living. And I'd ask you right now, all close your eyes as you're listening to and hear the bird that lives within you. You each might have a different bird. For me, it might be the phoenix. For you, it might be another bird. What's going to make you soar? What stories do you have within yourself that then take you to that next level? Now, getting out of the ashes, using my phoenix metaphor, the phoenix really doesn't die. And I've done a lot of research about it. It turns to ashes. We assume that it dies. But what I'm going to suggest to you today is that the phoenix within you turns exactly into that next level. The phoenix re-engages itself, reignites itself to a spark of God. And I know that the spark of God that has come through me has helped me get out of my ashes and turn myself back into that new phoenix. And yeah, I've had to do it again a few times in my life. I'm sure if you think about some things in your life, what have you done to have to get off the ashes, move when you didn't think you could, rise when it wasn't really available? Yeah. So I know I've had to do it. That day, almost 25 years ago, 20 years ago, man, it is much more powerful now because when I think about that, I knew and taught myself that I can rise and reminded myself. Now, one of the things I'm going to start also talking about is a lot of R's. You have to find the R in your life, the R in your heart. Now, a lot of times we think about things and that's where we get lost. Man, I didn't get lost. I was lost in my head. But until I could find my heart, and the magic about our hearts is that the word earth and heart are the same letters. It's just rearranged differently. And when you could find the R in your heart, that's when you start acting a lot more authentic. You can look into your heart, and your heart might be hurting. I'm not going to deny that. I will say once you could find the R, the resilience, how to rebuild, you can reach inside and know the power that's within you. There we go. Now we're talking. Because that's really what it comes down to, is having that energy, the awe in your heart. I mean, think about it. When we reflect, exactly, I have a story that I'll share with you about reflection. And it actually is about the story about little redemption as well. We all know the story of David and Goliath. But what we really don't really think about the story of David and Goliath is the idea that David had faith within himself and within God, that God would give him the strength, has given him the knowledge to take it upon to be able to rebuild. Nobody in the world at that time believed that they could beat Goliath. They couldn't beat Goliath without even getting on the court, on the field. Well, David knew he had the faith within himself. In fact, his family didn't. Right? The story is David's brothers put him out. That's why he was a shepherd. But guess what? He knew he had the power of the slingshot and his own confidence in that God wouldn't let him down. We all don't want to be let down. We know when we reach back into certain parts of ourselves, that heart, that pure heart, not the heart that gets into our minds where we have to question something. No, those don't work as strongly as the heart that we really know within ourselves, how we lift ourselves up, how we rise even more. David's fighting Goliath. And they don't tell you about the mountain behind them where they fought. And how David's looking at the sun rising. And there's a powerful of that rise. Because what he sees is a little glimmer of a reflection. There was a lake up there. And in that lake, David pictured himself looking at himself. And that's where we find those moments, those phoenix moments that lift us to go through and tell our story. Is when we look ourselves in the mirror, man, what do we see? I know that for me, at one point, I saw nothing but blank eyes. I attempted suicide, and somebody said, "Do you love yourself?" And I broke down crying. I knew how to help people, but I wasn't doing it for myself. I looked into that mirror. I looked into that reflection, and I looked into my eyes. And I'm sure you've done that also. Looking into your eyes and not seeing that spark. Man, that hurts. But I will tell you that being able to find the story, how to lift yourself out of the ashes, to remember to love ourselves in a way that's so much more powerful, to see that reflection. Man, when you can look at yourself and know that you've done everything possible with all the tools that God has given you, that you have the resources that you reached into and sought, that's where the power becomes. That's when we really take our stories to that next level, where we rise out of our ashes. We find a path. We find the right people. The resources are going to be our mentors, are going to be the people who really watch our backs. Those are powerful people. And when we do all those things, we could beat whatever Goliaths are in front of us. In fact, I recently just had a speech where I talked about that same topic. And I said, there was also a rooster. And I had people crowing like a rooster. And they were like, ow, 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 ow. Yeah. At any moment, we can light within ourselves that sun rising and hear the rooster take our story to the next level. Now, we know the story of David and Goliath. David beat Goliath and eventually became king of Israel. What would you think about being king or queen of where you are? Because you own your kingdom. Your kingdom is who you are, what you do, and how you act. Now, while we're in the kingdom, I want you to think about the stories in your life. There are many stories. And when you're in the right place, lots of stories are going to come out. How do I know? I'm an author. And among the books, I just keep writing. I just published 2 books about one was about a grandma who is making a quilt with her granddaughter. And there's so much generational knowledge that gets passed on. How do we write our own books? What are the stories that we do? I'll tell you, my first book was called When Your Heart Says It's Your Time to Soar. A bunch of poems and stories and pathfinder perspectives that I put in there, little ideas that anybody could read it, because if it's just a story about me, it's entertainment. But if I allow you to lift yourself up, find your right path, and take yourself to soar, there's some power there, my friend. I will tell you, when you can find yourself out of your ashes, find yourself on a path that's only unique, authentic to you, there's some power there. And then you get to soar, because you're going to start taking, once you find that right path, you're going to take some speed, and it's going to level you up. You're going to up level and take you to that biggest place in your heart. New levels, new opportunities, much like being here on Global Speakers Talk. It just doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. Using our stories, applying our stories, finding the right mentors to help us with our stories. I've worked with a lot of people who said, I can't write about that. And I had special techniques. I show them and teach them not only how to heal, but also move through their story, so that way there's a little bit more impact than just telling a story. Life is much more than just one story. There's groups of stories. And I know, and I haven't met a lot of you, but there's stories within yourself. What stories do you want to tell? What stories might be scaring you to tell? I can't tell you that. I can tell you that it needs to come out because somebody else needs to hear that story. I've had a podcast, and I love hearing stories. But it's not just about what I can do or about me. It's about all of us. We all lift each other up. We all rise. Sometimes the biggest hand we get is not the clapping. It's the hand that lifts us up or holds us. Finding those people to do that. Those are really the powerful pieces. And that's what's going to make you soar. When you get your story out, when you are able to stand on your own in front of a group or just by yourself to tell the truth, that's what makes you soar. Those are the stories that make you soar. Now, I can't tell you what to do. We're rounding up on time. I can't tell you. Find the story. And you might already know your story. And you might think that you have the story. But then teach them what they do. It's more than just, hey, I have a story and I got through it. You can too. No, let's push it a little bit more. There's so much knowledge within each one of us. When we start telling our story, we soar. We get out of our ashes, find our path, and then soar. And it's when those moments of soaring really occur. That's the magic. That's that spark. I know we all have it. No matter where you are in the world, you have that spark. I can't wait to see that spark on stages like this. And I'd love to help anybody who feels that they don't have a spark, because that's really what it comes down to, is we all gather together. We gather together to tell our stories, to share our stories, to teach others how we got through it. That's why when I call myself a mentor, I sit with people that I've experienced a lot of life. Some great, some not so good. But I know the way out. And that's the important part of when you're working with somebody, guiding them. And I want to guide you for the rest of this year. I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but whatever you're doing, you can start new at that moment. You are the phoenix in your life. I want you to just feel the spark, even if it's really hard. Think about the spark and how you're going to take it to that next level. What does that next level look as we start soaring in whatever bird we are? Go a little higher. Go on a branch higher. Take that power. A bird only trusts itself. It does not trust anything else when it takes that leap. Take that leap and you'll be able to do it. Thank you for my time. Appreciate it.